This is the Saturday Morning Forum, a special edition coming to you from Pearl's Place, 39th and Michigan Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. We want to thank the owners for making this space available to us to come to you live this morning on all of our platforms, Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe to that channel and go to www.rainbowpush.org to get more information. I want to make sure that you are part of the fastest growing civil rights movement on the planet by becoming a member right now. You can text the word PUSH to 41444. That's PUSH to 41444. Or go to Freedom on your dial, 773 Freedom on your dial, or go to any of the platforms at the bottom of the screen. This is a special Breakfast Club edition, as we are just days away from one of the most impactful elections, not just here in the city of Chicago, but in the nation, as Chicago is voting for both mayor and aldermanic and 22 new district councils, a new Democratic option in our political sphere here in Chicago. If you want to be a part of our conversation, we're coming to you live on WVON 1690. You can call right now, or hit us on Facebook and on YouTube, and we'll entertain your questions. We have some phenomenal guests with us, and we want to thank you for being our partner and being a part of participating in this special Breakfast Club Town Hall, the Saturday Morning Forum of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Of course, this is the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson, and we're so excited he'll be with us momentarily. Listen, call a friend, tell, tag, and or share and or like, and go to our various platforms and follow us wherever we are. Serving you is what we do. We have joining us Jane Ruby, who's the president of Chicago Board of League of Women, attorney Dolores Robinson, and Dr. Bob Starks, who has spent many years with us the analytics and the analysis, not just politics, but economics and social order. You know, as we look at the work of Reverend Jackson across the country, having registered 6 million votes, it is so very, very important in this election cycle here in Chicago, where nearly 180,000 people have voted early. The black and brown early vote is down, and we're gravely concerned that going into election day, we have got to make a statement as it relates to the direction of our city, our county, and our state. And so we cannot belabor the point in encouraging you to make sure that you get out to vote. There's so many ways. Before we close out today, we'll be sharing the various opportunities for you to vote in the city of Chicago and make your voice known by voting. It is so critically important. We have the most progressive voting opportunities in the nation, in the state of Illinois, in Cook County, and in the city of Chicago. Jane is so important with what we're filled with excitement and some anxiety about what this election will bring. Talk to our viewers about the role of the League of Women Voters and the importance. Women are going to make a significant part of our electorate on Tuesday. Both black, brown, and white. And Reverend Jackson has really spent a great deal of his work talking about the patchwork of the electoral process, the big tent of the electoral process, and the coalition, the Electoral Coalition, and women are significant to turn out on Tuesday. Talk a little bit about that.
There we go. Well, thank you first for having me come and talk about this election. It's pretty crazy. We're just a few days away from, hopefully everyone feeling good about the results. Yeah, so the League of Women Voters, we've been around for over 100 years. It started off as a way to, when women first got the right to vote, a way to educate women on, elections and politics and government. And so it's a really kind of robust year-long legacy of voter education and voter service. And through that, you know, the work that we've been doing this election has really been around candidate forums and bringing the candidates into a place of accountability across the city. So we've hosted 12 different candidate forums really around the city. A lot of them actually were, you know, in the south side of Chicago. And these were, you know, seats that we prioritized that were open, so vacancies from current aldermen, and it's a chance for voters to really kind of get to hear from who's going to represent them in these, you know, these seats that they've held for, you know, sometimes decades, and to sort of bring those new voices to the voters, because I think at the end of the day, you know, the candidates get up and, you know, they do their politicking, but if they're not talking to voters directly, there's a problem, and there's a lot of disconnect between that process. So I'm really hoping that this election, voters getting those sort of close interactions and understanding the power that they have to really make a difference in who is getting elected, not just to city council, but also to mayor, they'll sort of see that their vote is their power, and that, you know, every vote can make a difference. I'm really thrilled that vote by mail and early voting, we've seen such a huge uptick in participation. I think, as someone not born in Illinois, I look at our voting laws and I'm like, this is ridiculously amazing. Like, we have such fabulous voting laws here. Everyone should be taking advantage of that. Like, you could literally roll out of bed, walk down the street to your polling place, register to vote, and vote all in one day. Like, that's really a remarkable point of democracy that we have here. And it, you know, it saddens me that not enough people sort of take advantage of those sorts of opportunities and participate. So I'm really sort of hoping that we do get the, you know, the right turnout that we need on election day, that people do sort of understand the power that every individual vote can make. I think that there's going to be a lot of really close, you know, within a handful of votes in a lot of these cases, which is why it's really important that, you know, every single person turn out.
You know, Dr. Starks, you know, when we talk about turnout, the Center for Inner City Studies, you know, you can only but think in the days of Nancy Jefferson, Marion Stamps, Dorothy Tillman, who was on before us on WUAM. You talk about plebiscites. I remember plebiscites. This is unusual for us to have this many candidates, African American in particular. Tuesday is going to be a big day historically, and many people have been referencing Harold Washington. Talk a little bit about that, because the political science of Tuesday is really going to be tested, and I don't know many people who know it as well as you do as it relates to Chicago.
Hello? Yeah. The problem is that we have not really learned a lot from Harold Washington, because what happened was little Georgia Palmer started out in 1940 looking at who could run for election 3. So they were the ones who started the plebiscite. And they decided that we only needed one candidate.
And tell the audience what a plebiscite was, because it was something as a young activist to see a church full, almost like a convention in Chicago, to come to a consensus on a candidate.
Right. It was a consensus building process where we had petitions going around the city, and we go to churches, we go to assemblies, etc., all over the city to ask people who if they want to be the number one candidate. And the message was, we can't have more than one candidate. That we all had a consensus on. Because if you had 2 or 3 more, it would mess up the whole thing. And so we were able then to have Harold Washington as our major candidate. And of course we had to convince him to be that candidate. We met with him several times, and the last time we cussed him out and told him we were going to put him out to see us over there. And he finally agreed to do it. And he announced, and that was the whole thing that started the whole process in the city. And of course, we decided that we needed people to turn out. So a young lady, Mercedes Millette, and I came up with what was called the 80-80 plan. 80% of the African American vote turnout, and 80% of them voted for Harold Washington. And that's what we had. That was the largest turnout in the black community in the history of this city.
Going into Tuesday, and Jane talked about all of the political opportunities, the electoral possibilities, early voting, same day registration, all of that. Talk about the science of Tuesday in terms of turnout. We have to have, it's not just who you want to vote for, it's you got to vote. So let's talk about the science of the turnout on Tuesday, significant to us really taking advantage of the process. This is a real democratic opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, the process, the fact is, we have gone down in turnout since the Harold Washington days. And it's gone down specifically and stayed pretty much in the 30% area. So we're hoping that given the large early voting, that the voting will be, will be more than the 30% that we've seen in the last few elections. Because we need that more than 30% of the voters to turn out in order to have a fair election. Because Mayor Lightfoot is already saying that if it's within the 5% limit, she is going to ask for a recount. So if we have this low voter turnout, it could be a real mess, and it will take us all the way to May to get the final tally on who is winning.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really important to note, and I think something that you often, or I think people go into voting being like, my one vote doesn't count. It's like you're not just voting for yourself, you're also voting for your family, your community. You are voting for all of Chicago. So yes, you have your local elected officials that are neighborhood specific and ward specific, but those people are also going to be going to city council and advocating and making making legislative choices for everybody. So it's like by not participating and not turning out to vote, you're also hurting your whole community. You're also hurting the whole city by not participating. And I think that's a sometimes unpopular thing that I sort of say because I already voting is a luxury, but I think it's something that we cannot afford for the sake of everyone in our city to not do.
It's important. Those of you who are viewing us, this is a special presentation. We're coming to you live from Pearl's Place, 39th and Michigan. Make some noise for praise. This is Sunday morning town hall brought to you by the Rainbow Push Coalition and Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is in the building. Let's make some noise for Reverend Jackson. I want you right now, you can reach us 773-FREEDOM on your dial on any of our platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I want you to subscribe to that YouTube channel right now, and then I want you to scan that QR code on your screen and become a member of the fastest growing civil rights movement on the planet, the Rainbow Push Coalition. You can text the word PUSH to 41444, and guess what? Immediately through mobile banking, you can make a contribution to keep hope alive. He is here, and he is ready, and he has something to say. He is somebody. He is the founder and president of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Let's make some noise for Reverend Jesse Jackson. I am. Somebody.
I am somebody.
Somebody.
Respect me.
Respect me.
Protect me. Never neglect me.
Never neglect me.
I am somebody.
Somebody.
My mind is a pearl. I do anything in the world. If my mind can conceive it, my heart can believe it, and I can achieve it. I am somebody. Through it all, never surrender. Keep hope. Alive. Keep hope alive. May you scream this moment. National Executive Director, Brother Bishop Grant, big hand for Bishop Grant. Got Bishop.
I do what I'm told.
I said, my brothers and sisters, meditated down through the years, fighting for freedom. And we cannot afford to go backwards. We cannot afford to go backwards.
Can't afford to go backwards.
We cannot afford to go backwards.
Can't afford to go backwards.
And we do less than our best until we were going backwards. And I want to say this fall, this spring, with Dr. Starks, our professor, one, we're going to get students around the country marching for lower tuition. It's called who wants to go to school, $100,000 down in 4 years. What that really means is that many people, when we go, the cost of the debt is too much for them to bear. We must in fact fight the local registration, and the money costs money. Another step I want to take, we want to take the idea of medical registration. 18 and older, you automatically register to vote. As the right to vote, voter registration costs too much to talk to. It's a burden of people. And we want everybody to vote, white, black, brown, to vote. And the voters that they already registered. We registered about 9 million voters in the last 30 years, and I tell you, we've not scratched the surface. Texas, there's 700,000 blacks on the register, millions of Latinos on the register. The natural allies from the needs. So if we register to vote, we'll make something happen. So one, we're going to fight this fall for automatic registration, fight the low tuition. We're also going to fight to raise workers' wages. It's cost too much to work. At the end of the month, there's more month than money. There's more month than money. More month than money. We fight for the right, have a job, organize, and with a decent wage. It's not that simple thing, because we made the proposition to those who are running that at some point they have to make a leadership decision. I'm not going to win this one, I'm going to win the next one. So, in there Sunday night, there should be some people who decide to support the 1 or 2 front runners. Now, everybody thinks they're front runners. That's the self-deception. Polls matter. Polls matter. Polls matter. So we're all going to run in there, we'll win just enough to lose. Stakes are very high, but we made up the decision we want to be. I should have contracts, I should have jobs, education. Education, not to lose one of my passions. At this point, there are 42 schools in this country, in the state, 42 schools. Less than 250 students. 42 schools, less than 250 students. Manly High has 15 to 65 students, and only 25 teachers who live in 1,500. And the school, Mrs. Hammond, the school that we have 1,500 students, 65 students, 25 teachers. Well, that's madness. Schools don't have recreation, we'll have choirs, we'll have music, we'll have bands. So that's not a real school. Despite our children getting good education, they must fight to learn once they get the opportunity. Parents, I want to say this to you right now. We're going 1-on-1. First, take your child to school. We have time to go to jail. Your children in the courtroom. Take your child to school, teach your child's teacher, change home numbers, 3 hours a night study, 4 people child report card, and 6. The last of the thing, once you've done that, you shall church on the Sunday on Sunday. You must have moral value, not just education. Bishop, I want to thank you very much. Let's keep on going, Bishop.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Let's give it up for Reverend Jesse Jackson. Another one of our guests is Attorney Dolores Robbins, is a former Cook County Bar President and current board member of IVI-IPO. You know, Attorney Robinson, as we talk about these 22 district councils, a new democratic option that affords us an opportunity for citizens to be elected, to have a participatory process, legislative process in policing and public safety. Your background as an attorney and then what IPO does, you know, the bar is going to play a significant role, as Dr. Starks has talked about. It could be a potential challenge. You know, we're going to be running Election Central in Rainbow Push from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. all day on Tuesday to make sure that we have free and fair elections. But, you know, participation in the electoral process is key. And understanding your, you know, right to participate in a democracy is fundamental. Talk about that from a lawyer's perspective, because lawyers are going to play a significant role in making sure that polling places open, they're not mysteriously moved, they're not mysterious ballots and mysterious, you know, happenings in the polling place. But lawyers have always played a significant role in protecting the vote as relates to black and brown communities.
Thank you very much, Bishop, for having me here, and thank you, Rainbow Push, as well as our, at least mine here, Jackson. Yes, I am an attorney, but I am a retired attorney, been retired for over 15 years. I'm a former prosecutor. Yes, lawyers do play an important role. Number one, I will be at Push Central, like I am usually every year. I am a board member of IVIPO, so when we talk about the police districts, this is like new territory for us in Chicago. For instance, first of all, I'm not here on behalf of IVIPO, but since I am a board member, I have participated in virtually every endorsement session that IVI has had, including positions for the district council. And just so I can make it clear, the endorsement session is primarily a two-pronged process. Members can participate, members can vote in the first part. It's a board-run organization, so then the board takes the recommendations or decides not to take the recommendations of any of the endorsed candidates.
Talk about, attorney, how, you know, these endorsement sessions, and we talked about when Bob Starks talks about plebiscites and the challenge for consensus. Endorsements matter, and they play a significant role in people making decisions. And oftentimes, you know, there's a group that is very dismissive because they vote on social media, they vote on commercials, but there is a really systematic approach to the endorsement process because you have to know what people stand for, right?
That's correct. And in the particular case that I'm talking about, you have to submit an application. And we've got a series of questions for each of the categories, whether it's alderman or mayor or even the district council positions. And we look at those and then we base our questions individually to each candidate. We give them maybe 2 minutes to give an opening, you know, present your case, and then maybe 5 to 8 minutes of a question and answer, closing, and then we quote-unquote caucus or make decisions. It's not perfect. You know, you can have all the endorsements you want, and like you said, Bishop, you know, there's endorsements, and then there are endorsements. So it depends on who you want to listen to. But I do think that when you are making your pitch to the people, you need to make it to as wide of an audience as possible, at least within the realm of the area in which you're running. You don't have to make it downstate because it doesn't count there. But in your particular area, yes, you need to make that pitch. And you don't just have to convince us, but you got to take your message to the people, because ultimately they're the ones to decide.
Well, I'm excited about being with us Tuesday because those of you in the Chicagoland area, we are able to go to 773 Freedom on your dial, or you go to www.rainbowpush, and we have lawyers, we have assistants, we have electioneers, we have a gambit of individuals who will be able to help anybody under any circumstance from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. when polls close. You know, Dr. Bob Starks, it seems like everything is up for grabs. CPS, CTA, CTU, CPD. We need to see people vote on Tuesday to really make this thing happen. When we talk about the issues, there was a recent poll that indicated 70% of African Americans and Hispanics believe these two communities working together could leverage a tremendous amount of political influence and energy in moving the city forward. Talk about the collaborative aspect of this, because at a certain point when this election is over, we've got to come together and do the business of running a big city.
Well, when Paul Vallis says we got to take our city back, it kind of stormed through everybody, because I think what he's really saying to his MAGA constituency is that he's got to take it back from black and brown people. So we have to be very careful about that, because since Harold Washington's election, we have had a collaboration between black and brown people. We need to keep that collaboration together, and we need to expand it and deepen it, because otherwise the city is going to power.
So talk to me. I always lean to you from a political science standpoint. The idea, and I don't know, but I've been around a minute. I don't know that our city has ever, in a mayoral election, Reverend Wilson, have a sitting governor, Republican governor, come to our city and get the endorsement of a union of our city. I mean, I can remember during the primaries where a certain individual whose name will not be mentioned tried to come to our city and was quite honestly chased out of the city. Well, to have DeSantis, who has had some of the most egregious legislation against voting, against access to voting, the mobility of voting, let alone CRT and other things. This is just kind of like an outlier of sorts, but it's a new reality. And Chicago is a landing strip for a new brand of politics.
Well, that's why it's so important that we vote for those persons that are going to sit on the police council in our very communities. Most people don't understand what the hell that's all about, right? But we got to do the research, find out how it works, and get some people vote for some people in those districts that will be healthy. The other thing that really disturbs me is that there's been very little talk about the cooperation between aldermen and the mayor. We have so much emphasis on the mayoral election and very little discussion about the automatic election.
The 16 automatic wards at state.
We'll have an absolutely new city council at the end of this election.
2, 5, 6, 21 have no incumbent. Unprecedented.
That's right, unprecedented, right? Now, will that new council cooperate with the new, whoever the Are you married? Okay, that's a problem. How will they, it will take at least 3 to 4 months before they gel together and then get back to work. And you will have chaos in city council, believe me. So it's so important that we get out and vote, because we cannot have a democracy unless you have voting. Because in the words of Abraham Lincoln, a democracy is of the people, by the people, and for the people, right? And without voting, you do not have a democracy. And we see the MAGA Republic trying to go back to pre-1965 with voting, etc. And that's why I'm so very grateful that we have Reverend Jackson, who has registered more than 6 million people in this country to vote, right? So we have got to have people coming out, doing the vote, get out the vote, kinds of rallies all over the city between now and Tuesday. And then if there's, and there will be a runoff, let me just say that, we've got to have some more activity and more get out the vote, because this is going to be a very crucial election.
As we close this first session out, Attorney Robinson, people have a legal right, and if they run into some challenges on Tuesday, what are a couple things they need to remember that they need to do to protect their right to vote?
There are organizations out here that have phone numbers available, even at Election Central and Railroad Push. You're going to have a manual. It's going to tell you every place you need to, agency you need to call, from the state's attorney's office to the AG's office to the Board of Elections, and they have attorneys on board to go into court immediately in order to either extend voting hours or to handle a lot of things. Some things are kind of minor, like the paper ran out or the pen's going up, but the legal part, there are attorneys on there all over the city and county and all those issues.
Jay, what your organization does, Illegal Women Voters, mobilize women and communities to vote. Tuesday is a big deal. What would you say is the most important thing to happen on Tuesday, other than vote? Maybe bring somebody to the poll with you, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the way I look at it is, democracy is 24/7. It is not, one day out of the year or one day out of an election cycle. Like, the process keeps going. So it's not just, getting people out to vote on one day and then they can go home and pretend that government and politics isn't working. You constantly have to be watchdogs to make sure that our elected officials are accountable to us every single day of the year. So I think kind of stressing that, okay, for young folks, some issues that candidates talk about might not apply to them yet, but they might not be paying property taxes, they might not be sending kids to school, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect them every single day, those particular issues. And I think very much stressing that from young voters through old voters, that we all need to get out and support each other and protect each other and make sure that we all are voting in all of our best interests. And that doesn't mean one neighborhood in Chicago over another. It means we have to be thinking about all of us together.
Well, this is a special edition. We're live. This is a special edition of the Rainbow Push Saturday Morning Forum. Coming to you live from Pearl's Place, 39th and Michigan. Make some noise, everybody. Facebook and Instagram, and you can go to all of our platforms and like, share, comment, tag, and tell somebody to be a part of the fastest growing civil rights movement on the planet. Text that word PUSH to 41444 and become a member. Get your 2023 PM right now, and you can make a contribution and be a part of everything that we're doing. If you're in Chicago, dial the number 773-FREEDOM on your dial. All of the platforms at the bottom will immediately engage you in helping Reverend Jesse Jackson keep hope alive. I want to thank our faithful, some of our faithful members. Make some noise right real quick. When our panel switches out, we want to make sure that you stay engaged with us in every shape, form, and fashion. This coming Tuesday in Chicago, we'll have Election Central open 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you're a voter and you have any type of election question, issue, circumstance, or situation, we'll have lawyers, we'll have experts, we'll have volunteers available to assist and aid you in any way possible to make sure that this is a free and fair election. You know, educators play a significant role in this process. Teachers play a significant role in this process. And we talked about CTA, talked about CPD, talked about CTU. It is important as we approach this election. You know, a record number of high school students are going to be first-time voters in this election. A person who has really spent a lot of time talking about social justice and civil rights as it relates to education is Dr. Sonia Whitaker. Dr. Sonia Whitaker, talk to us about the importance of educators. You gotta turn it on at the bottom. You gotta turn it on. All right.
Hello.
Talk to us about it because Tuesday is a big day. When we talk about education, talk about student funding.
That's right.
Talk about equity in education. You're an expert in that area. Talk to us how important it is.
Can I first of all tell you all, I am on fire. I am on fire right now. Let me tell you why I'm on fire. Because in addition to serving as the National Education Policy Director for Push for Excellence, I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Schools for Dalton School District located in the south suburbs of Illinois. And in a 1 week's time span, I went from classroom to running a school district to Capitol Hill fighting on your behalf. And I want to make sure that we do not go to sleep on what's happening in public education. In the city of Chicago, most of you already know that the city of Chicago's educational institution is under the control of the mayor. That's the bottom line. So I don't want you to just vote for a person. I want you to know that the person that you're voting for represents your interests. And let me tell you, if you didn't know what you should be interested in right now as it relates to public education, I need to tell you. What happened was during COVID, school districts across the nation, including in Chicago public schools, we got millions of dollars. As a school district official, I cannot deny that I got millions of dollars from the federal government. Imagine that during COVID. But what you don't know is I have 12 months only to spend that money. Why is that a problem, Doc? That's a problem because when we got the millions of dollars, so to speak, right, we got to spend it and then they give it back. But when we got access to the millions of dollars, we only had a certain period of time to spend it. That time is up in 12 months. The problem with that is everybody in the world know that we couldn't build schools because construction products and materials were not available. I wanted to build STEM labs for my students, but we know we were in an international pandemic, so those companies didn't have access to the people to do the work. So why in the world would the federal government tell me today that if I don't spend the money in 12 months, they're going to take the money away from your children? That's a problem. And so when you go to the polls to vote, it would behoove us to know if those people are willing to go to Capitol Hill with just a few votes short of Congress saying, yes, Chicago, yes, we're going to give the school district superintendents enough time to spend the money because we got common sense to know that they couldn't spend the money when we gave it to them. I want you to know that. It's time to take advocacy to another level. You know, Push Excel, we launched every single quarter a town hall, really a critical thinking series. And the topic of the critical thinking series is Shaping America's Education Agenda. And the reason why we call it Shaping America's Education Agenda, because every time I hear somebody talk about politics, education just gets slipped in there at the end of the conversation. There's not enough time being had relevant to conversations specific to the fact that we know that our children has to have positive academic experiences. And so everybody in this room, everybody watching internationally is highly intelligent. I want you to stay in touch with Rainbow Push, and more specifically Push itself, so that you know when you go to cast your vote what you need to make sure that they are indeed in support of. The other thing that I want you to know that nobody else is going to tell you is that special education funding at the federal level in particular has not been funded adequately in 75 years. In other words, at the federal level, they have not given more money towards special education in 75 years. Who are we casting our votes for? Do they know that? And are they advocating on our behalf?
You know, give it up for Dr. Sonia Willis.
I'm just saying.
I think she's on, it's cold in Chicago and she's on fire. There is a book that we made available, and somebody ought to say, I am somebody. Say, I am somebody. This book, you can go to our website, www.rainbowpush.org, go to Amazon or any of the other platforms. And Reverend Jackson, in this book, in the chapter 10, that says, I keep hope alive, you mention, you say that our politics is not our religion. And from a very systematic standpoint, your work here in Chicago changed the theological footprint of bringing what we call today liberation theology, black theology, and a sense of progressiveness in our churches that now make churches the front line of our political process. Talk about that, because faith leaders cannot be quiet. They cannot hold their peace. They're like Dr. Whitaker, they got fire shut up in their bones. Give it up for Reverend Jackson, everybody.
Vice President really sold us out in the 17th century. Churches, when we first came here as slaves, we got indentured servants, we worked around the the only marriage at that time. You could go to a church and join. We didn't get slavery any longer. Then the leaders went to church and said, we won't support your churches, money, let's change that policy. We'll come to white evangelicals, we in the politics. More on social justice, more on individual salvation, social justice. You can have all the things you want, the blood will be determined by politics. Religion and house fire, we have family religion, your house will burn up. Everything about our lives has a decision. If we have religious passion for it, we in fact got to go. In Chicago, most ministers live there daily. $30,000 on some issues. Come in and have brought the backbone of that situation. And he stood up for church and 7 years it was vacant. He said, we couldn't build a single thing. We broke back that the Reverend is clearly stood up for us. We began to change everywhere. Saying that talk about their hands under they have been natural. That was the reason we bought our churches, frankly. We began to see what we played the scheme of things. So I tell you, my friend, you can do some specific things. We want to take your child to school. The building jail cells are based on third-grade research. Jail cells on third-grade research. Jail cells on third-grade. So your child should go to school, they just spell the name. Basic stuff. Since we lost, I thought the book was to say that we lost 7,000 children probably not in school. 7,000 not in school. Where are they today? In jail? Maybe I'll take a message. 7,000 didn't go back to school. You gotta get the money and get out of school. Let's send them back. Vote for the person And in Chicago, we got to learn to listen to each other. You got to listen to this right now. Register today. Vote for Tuesday.
Register today. Let's give it up for Reverend Jesse Jackson. I am somebody. Get that book right now. It's available in this space. You know, sitting next to Reverend Jackson is a young author, activist, represents the young innovators. Let's give it up for Jeremy Young, everybody. This is a special edition of the Rainbow Push Saturday Morning Forum. Jeremy, as we talk about your work as an author and an activist, the group that you're leading up, talk about the young ballot, because Dr. Sonia Whitaker's talking about the young vote, the power of the young vote. Let's talk about how to engage that crowd, because they could be the margin of victory coming into Tuesday.
That's definitely true. So one thing I want to say first, how important it is, what Reverend Jackson said, that stuck with me. You graduate with a diploma in one hand, and on the other hand, you have a voter registration card. I really stand by that, simply because I think that nowadays, young people, and it's not, nowadays I believe young people look at voting almost like a ritual, instead of it's an everyday walk in their life. This really affect their lives. So I think the heavy lifting is for us to let the young people understand that voting is just not a ritual in the community, because one, they see the grandmother or grandfather and their mother and their father vote for so many years, and they see little change in their community. So what we want them to understand is that their vote matters to their specific way to excel in their communities. And I think that one thing about the young ballot that we have to understand, like we have to have a mayor to take youth violence and the disparities in the community and education like it's an emergency. So we don't really see that. I think what usually happens is we don't get the young people fired up enough. So one of the young people that I think that's firing the young people up is we see Jamal Green making headlines over Jamal Green, he's making headlines over Instagram. That's where the young people are. You know, the access to voting and how hard it is sometimes to get the access. Why ain't voting? Why can't we vote online? Like just those type of disparities that we know can eliminate a lot of red tape.
That's a new deal, man. You know, as Reverend Jackson talks about universal access to voting.
Yes, sir.
In the state of Minnesota, when you turn 16,
Yeah.
you can automatically go on the voter polls.
Yeah.
Automatically become a registered voter.
Wow.
When you turn 16 in the state of Minnesota. Reverend Jackson is talking about federalizing that. So your dynamic and talking about, and this is really a young innovator's deal, that you could go on social media and register versus some of these other means. You're gonna get DeSantis to shut Google down.
Exactly. So and here's the thing. Not only do we need I think the access is not that difficult, but we also need the education behind what these political powerhouses mean to the community. A lot of times we don't educate the young people. I think that is one thing I would want to bring the Rainbow Push as we started going around to the schools and telling them before the election, hey, this is what's at stake. You know, this is what's these type of things are on the limbo. You know, we still haven't had a real conversation about the violence. This is a stain on Chicago, not just about the South Side or young people. Violence has been a stain on Chicago nationwide. They call it the murder capital, but we don't have a candidate. I haven't seen it at least. We don't have a candidate that's taking it serious enough to say, this is a streamlined way that we're going to stop, put a halt, or we're going to start plugging the holes in these communities where we know these young people are falling short.
You know, affordable housing is on the ballot, Betty. Child care is on the ballot. Educational equity is on the ballot. When we talk about the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson as our Illinois political director, you know, these candidates, this is an unprecedented, we got maybe 16 automatic councils, automatic wards that are up. Several of them have no incumbent. You know, the day, you and I, we can talk about people that live outside of Chicago, may not know John Stroger, and know the ward, the power of ward organizations.
Heavy hitters.
I mean, this is really a new dynamic for us that we've not seen. Talk about that, because, you know, at the end of the day, it is still the base that turns out. At the end of the day, as Jeremy talked about young people, there is still the base that will be heard on Tuesday, but they got to turn out.
They have to turn out, but you have to organize the turnout. We start with voter registration. I always remember that when Congressman Jackson ran, Jesse Jr., he registered about 5,000 voters. He won by about 5,000 voters. So you have to register.
Say that one more. Hold, back that thing up. He registered 5,000 and won by 5,000.
Margin of victory was the same amount. People you register tend to listen to you when you go back to them and say, I suggest you vote. You gotta go out and vote. And if you recommend someone for them to vote for, they'll vote for them because you registered them in the first place. Illinois has the best voter apparatus in the country. If you didn't vote, you didn't register by the deadline, you can go and register today and vote. You can go election day and vote. We will be in Election Central at Rainbow Push from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you go to the polling place and you have a problem, do not leave. Stay in the polling place, call us, and we will hook you up with a lawyer who will tell you what to do. If the lawyer can't work it out, they will call the board and have the board send someone out. We've done it lots of times. If you have an elderly mother, or if you're working downtown and can't get to your polling place in Chicago, you can go to any one of 50 early voting sites.
Say that one more time, 50.
50, actually there are 52. Early voting sites and vote on election day. You don't have to go to your polling place. If your cousin is disabled and wants to go vote and lives in one polling precinct and you live in another, you can take that person to what the super site that is convenient to the both of you and vote. Reverend Jackson and Jonathan live in two different precincts, but election day they voted together because they went to a polling super site and voted. Now, you can call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, which is 866-687-8683 today, and find out if you're registered to vote. It's called 1-866-OUR-VOTE. And you can go to the Chicago Reader newspaper. They have a list of all of the CCPD candidates. We don't know who they are. Some of them are connected with the police department. We don't really want them. But you can go to the Chicago Reader. They have a statement on every single CCPD candidate that is running. You choose who you want. But please, it's just like the judges. We tell you to go to the bottom of the ballot. Go to the bottom of the ballot and vote for these CCPD candidates. They are the people that will help change the paradigm in your neighborhood when it comes to crime. They are the people that will be your representative to talk to the commanders in your neighborhood to reduce crime. Tomorrow, at Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, we're doing Souls to the Polls. I don't know.
Is that the church?
Oh yeah, that's my church. That's my church. That's my church. That's my church.
And Reverend Shaw is your pastor.
Show you right. Show you right. We are going to vote after service. At 2 o'clock, we have a bus coming to take us to the super site to vote. So all those people that didn't want to go in the evening, didn't want to take a chance on walking around in the neighborhood, when they get out of service, we're going to vote at the super site. Every pastor can do that. There are several churches. We're calling it Souls to the Poll. There is a bill in Illinois. We have to remember when we vote for state legislators, they make determinations on what can happen. There's a bill in Illinois, going back to what Jeremy said, to make provisions for 16-year-olds to register, and when they become 18, they vote. Now, if you're 16 and will be 18 by April 4th, you can vote on Tuesday.
One more time, if you're 16.
17.
17.
And will be 18 by April 4th.
You can vote on Tuesday.
You can vote on Tuesday. We need to know that. If you have a question about whether you can or cannot vote, whether you're registered or not registered, you just got out, you were incarcerated and you're out, can you vote, can you not vote? In Illinois, you can vote once you get out. In Illinois, you can vote. But if you're not sure, call Rainbow Push 773-373-3366 on Tuesday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you have a car and are doing nothing, come by there. We have people that call and ask for votes to the polls. We will be there to service you on Tuesday, February 20th.
Give it up for Miss Betty Magnus. Not only do we have the book, I Am Somebody, but we have the book, Keep Hope Alive, which is a compilation of speeches and sermons by Reverend Jesse Jackson. I have several of both of the books, but one of the chapters that is a reflection of Reverend Jackson's 50 years of work. You know, Dr. Whitaker, there are some that are calling this a National Day of Hate. And Reverend Jackson, on page 159, get this book. This will be a blessing to you. Reverend Jackson, you say there's too much hate, too much violence, too many drugs, too many guns in the land. And here's the statement that resonates with me. Our dreams are under attack. And when we look at where we are, that's a phenomenal statement by Reverend Jackson. Give it up for Reverend Jackson. Our dreams are under attack. When you talk about our dreams being under attack, when we look at January 6th and look at what is happening on the Supreme Court, look at 4 or 5 people who hold our democracy hostage for several days, and we now have an opportunity with Hakeem Jeffries and a person you're familiar with, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, to really make this a more perfect union. Talk about our dreams being under attack.
People are just giving up. Sometimes the Super Bowl come on 8 o'clock on the evening. Sometimes when the show comes on, they go with the emancipation. Every high school, one thing about that. The whole idea of soul support is our idea. Remember this idea. The idea of these all be able to register on the same day. Remember this idea. And thirdly, more liberal access to voting in America is Minnesota and Illinois. That's how it works. You register to vote for Rainbow. You 6 days. So you listen to the telephone right now. And vote for Rainbow too. Fight going.
Listen, you can buy the book today, I Am Somebody, and Keep Hope Alive. Give it up for Reverend Jesse Jackson. I want to make sure you take one of these envelopes and put $35 in it or $100 in it to keep hope alive. You can text the word PUSH to 41444. You scan the QR code and use mobile banking. One of the hallmarks of our organization is Push Excel. And we have the National Executive Director of Push Excel, Special Advisor to Reverend Jesse Jackson. Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson is with our Breakfast Club. Give it up for Reverend Wilson. Good morning. Reverend Wilson, talk about, as we get ready to close, I mean, this is a big day in Chicago. We've had, this is the last weekend. It's Black History Month. I guess we can make some history on Tuesday if we pull it together.
Those of you who are here today, if you could just give me 30 seconds of your conversation. Shh. Just 30 seconds. All of you who are parents, grandparents, nieces, uncles, and you have someone that lives with you that you know that lives in the city of Chicago that will be 18 years old by this election, we want to make sure they're voting. If you go to church tomorrow, ask your pastor to make sure that everybody in the congregation who is 17 years or older is going to vote tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday. They don't have, if they're not registered, they can register and vote the same day. Now, why do you need to vote? Some of you are saying there's too many people, it's confusion. Well, don't be confused, because this is one of the most important elections that we will face in our lifetime in the city of Chicago. The last time we gave up the seat in Chicago, it was after the death of Harold Washington. And so we need a high turnout in the black community. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I tell you, voting for mayor, voting for city clerk, voting for city treasurer is important. They regulate the banking, they regulate education, they regulate all of the public buildings in this city. It also means that you'll see aldermen running across this city for re-election or to be elected. The mayor governs streets of sand, whether the snow is shoveled in your neighborhood, whether the garbage is picked up in your neighborhood, whether the lights are on in your alley. You and I need to vote like we've never voted before. Now, I don't know who you're voting for, but what I can tell you is some wards are voting double digits while the black wards are not voting their strength. We are almost the majority of the residents in Chicago, and we're not voting our strength. So what can we do? Tell 10, talk to 10, call 10, tweet 10, text 10, social media, 10 people you know, and say, have you voted yet? We have to vote. We got to vote like we've never voted before. You don't need music to vote. You don't need payment to vote. You just need to vote because it is important for all of us. So, tell 10, talk to 10, tweet 10, text 10 to vote today, tomorrow, or Tuesday. Now, if you have any problems, you can call PUSH. Just remember how to spell freedom, F-R-E-E-D-O-M. On your cell phone, your personal phone, call us. We have lawyers, we have people to make sure you can vote. Now, I know what's going to happen. Like me, I got a new ward that I'm voting in, which means a new polling place. Don't get confused. Take this sheet of paper that tells you where you can go vote. Give it to your grandmother, your auntie, your uncle, your grandfather, your father, your mother, your friend, your significant other, and say, look, you can go to any one of these places, wherever you are, today, tomorrow, and Monday, and Tuesday. Go and do what? Vote. Go and do what? Vote. When you gonna vote? Tuesday. Today, tomorrow, or Tuesday.
Tell 10, text 10, tweet 10.
Now, the one thing, Bishop, you know how Chicago weather is. It snowed last night and we didn't know it. So,
You didn't know what's going on?
I didn't know it was snowing until this morning. Therefore, you might want to go ahead and vote today so you don't have to be confused tomorrow, because you wake up and it's snowing you and you're going to get confused. Now, you don't have to vote for, you said 9 people running for mayor. You don't have to vote for but one. Look down the ballot. If you can't spell their name, you can't remember their name, look for numbers. You know how we used to vote by the numbers. I'm not telling you the number. I'm just saying to you, it ain't that hard. It's only about 4 offices you voted for. It's real simple. Play the number after you vote. Tell 10 to vote. Tell 10, tweet 10, text 10, call 10 to vote now, today.
Let's give it up for Reverend Jesse. This is a special edition of the Saturday Morning Forum. Breakfast Club coming to you live from Pearl's Place. Make some noise for Pearl's Place. Fantastic breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I want to thank all of our guests. I want to thank Jane Ruby. I want to thank Attorney Robinson. I want to thank Dr. Bob Starks. I want to thank Jeremy Young, Betty Magnus, Dr. Sonia Whitaker, and our very own Representative Wilson, and our leader, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Everybody, listen, this coming Tuesday, Election Central at Rainbow Push, 930 East 50th Street. We'll be hitting the L stops on Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., 95th and the Dan Ryan. Our Get Out the Boat drive all day long. We'll be getting L stops. We'll be getting special stops throughout the city. If you need a ride, transportation, assistance, information, and or engagement, 773-FREEDOM on your dial, or go to www.rainbowpush.org. Now there's an envelope. That envelope is important because it helps fund and finance all that we do. There's a QR code. Scan that code right now, or you can do mobile banking. Just text the word PUSH to 41444, and you can give right now.
Well, we're looking for all of the three organizations to help get this vote out. I see the Omegas in the house. I know the Alphas are waiting. I know the Sigmas are, and the AKA.
Sister Muhammad is here.
We're looking for all of the
Carolyn is here. Brenda is here.
And we're looking for Jack and Jill. We're looking for all the teachers. Everybody, turn out your crowd. Missionary Society, the church, the prayer band.
Everybody, church.
We gotta turn it out.
Turn it up. Hey, we want to thank you so very much. Spread the word, and don't forget to help us keep hope alive. Thank you so very much, and have a great day, everybody.
You can make it. Keep on.